Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I mean, this was a House oversight hearing basically about the immigration issues in New York City and in New York State. There has been a shortage in rooms and in beds in shelters in New York City recently because there has been an influx of migrants here. And AOC asks a just common sense question about, okay, we know you guys don't like migrants, right? We know you don't like them. But what is the alternative to kicking them out of these homeless shelters? And there is no answer here. This is New York City councilwoman Joanne Ariola, who's a Republican. And then more notably, I think, is New York State Assemblywoman Jamie Williams, who she's speaking to here, who is a right-wing Democrat who did not really get win a primary via popular vote, if I'm not mistaken. She was handpicked by the Brooklyn Democratic Party in a special election. And she's now working with Republicans to help basically block shelter for asylum seekers in her district.
Yeah, and like Floyd Bennett Field, which is like a former airfield in Marine Park in Brooklyn, that are very adamantly against like housing migrants there.
Okay, yeah. So this is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez kind of going at it with, or going after her, rightfully so.
Now, Councilmember Ariola, it says here, that you've got this statement is in opposition to work permits and work authorizations for newly arrived asylees. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So you are in opposition, and in this letter it says, quote unquote, the migrants who have recently arrived in New York should follow the lawful immigration process. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes, it is.
Are you aware that seeking asylum is a lawful immigration process?
When it is deemed to be asylum.
Yes.
It has not yet been deemed to be asylum seekers.
Are you aware that application, you have to arrive in the United States in order to apply for asylum, correct?
Great.
So arrival is also part of that lawful process. I'd like to highlight that. And so when we oppose work authorization, we have folks who are opposing the ability for people who are seeking a lawful process to support themselves, who don't want to be a strain on public systems. And we've got folks who want to block people from being able to follow the same American dream that almost every person here, their family comes from. Folks coming here with nothing but the shirt on their back and getting a job and supporting a family. We've got folks who want to deny that. On the federal level, we have folks who oppose comprehensive immigration reform. We're cutting funding, not just to our national park services, but to our overall supportive services. We're on the brink of a shutdown right now so that none of these things can get processed in the first place. And then, while we're in this process of opposing work authorizations, I think it's important to note that these systems are being overwhelmed in the first place because of large parts of contributions to solve this problem. If we are serious about addressing this issue, we need to also make sure that we're opening and allowing people to be documented. And I can't for the life of me understand why there is such partisan opposition to doing this. I mean, truly. And in addition to that, we also need to be assessing the foreign policy decisions that we are making that are driving people to our southern border in the first place. There is so much rhetoric out here blaming other countries and their dysfunctions for why people are coming to the United States when we are engaging in interventionist policy abroad and when our sanctions in Latin America are part of the picture here. So we're either going to agree to those things and take on the responsibility of the consequences, or we're going to reassess our policy. It is outrageous to be using the city of New York, where, by the way, these asylum seekers, their kids are enrolling in school. Those who can seek work are doing it right away. That, by the way, they're trying to fill labor needs that we have long had as a city and state. We should be paving the pathways to make this as easy as possible. And perhaps we wouldn't need, and perhaps there wouldn't be a Floyd Bennett Field situation if people were actually supporting a smooth system here. Assemblymember Williams, I didn't hear in your testimony. I understand the concerns you're raising about the field. I didn't hear in your testimony the alternative sites you've advocated for. Could you remind me of which those are?
The alternative sites to house migrants?
The alternative site to Floyd Bennett Field.
Well, in the conversation, as we know, as we
I'm
heard-
sorry, I only have 18 seconds. Which are the sites that you propose as an alternative?
I don't have a proposal.
So you don't have a proposal alternative?
Whoop.
No proposed alternative.
Just no.
No solutions here, no ideas here. But Democrats, we're authorizing 500,000 work permits so people can get on their feet and support themselves. Democrats, we're proposing comprehensive immigration reform. Democrats, we're talking about saying, let's reassess our foreign policies so that people aren't fleeing and making sure that we aren't participating in the destabilization of what's happening abroad. And all I'm hearing right now is that we're not being met in the middle. No support, no path to citizenship, no identified alternatives, just grievances. We need to get it together and make sure that we're getting on the right page. And if the ideas being presented here in this committee are being disagreed with, I'd like to see some actual functional alternatives that center and preserve the dignity of both people who are coming here to fulfill an American dream and the American citizens here who want to support them. And with that, I yield back to the chair. Thank you.
Hell yeah. She has been on fire on this issue over the past week or so, connecting it to our sanctions policies in Latin America, which are driving the kind of insecurity that forces people to leave their native home to come and seek a better life.
Crawl under barbed wire fence using cardboard.
Yeah, right. But apparently they're just doing that because they'd rather breathe air in Texas
Just
versus
how great America
over.
is.
Yeah, I mean, they just
Barbecue.
They want to see it for themselves. But what she's saying there is so common sense if the policy is to be humanist and sensical, right? Sensible is a better word there. People are going to come here regardless. We know that because we've militarized the border so heavily, and there are, as Matt said, people drowning in the Rio Grande in barbed wire traps because they are so desperate at this point. That the whole Republican line about you can come here, but you've got to come here legally. Okay, but legality is a construct that is ever shifting. And as AOC points out, it is legal to seek asylum, and you're only able to make that claim when you're coming to the country first. And then Republicans and right-wingers and right-wing Democrats like Williams there will essentially, we lost Brandon, will essentially say, well, they're coming here illegally, but there's no real process for them to seek asylum within the bounds of legality. And then it's just triple down on border enforcement, triple down on criminalizing people who just want to live their lives. And there is no alternative sites for them to live, no alternative housing for them, no alternative process so that they aren't complete pariahs when they come to this country, and that they're not under threat of constantly being deported. But the reality is that there is a certain class of people in this country that likes that there is a population in the United States that is here in incredibly precarious circumstances, so that their labor can be exploited, so that they can get wages that are paid to them, or that they can pay them wages that are under the table, that are less than the minimum wage, that are starvation to the nth degree. I mean, that is what the underlying incentive is here for capitalists and for people who are not interested in making our immigration policy more humane. I've gone on for a while here, but I really do appreciate how she's providing a counter narrative to the right-wing framing of this, because the Biden administration, for as happy as I've been with the UAW stuff, has been completely absent on this issue of immigration. And the Democratic Party has ceded the framing to the right in a way that I find to be very problematic.
I think even this was a problem I had with even Bernie in 2016 and I think he's done more than just say that it's like immigration is a Koch brothers sort of operation or whatever. I think he's sort of gotten a little bit close to this where AOC is at, but this is where we, like, any representative of our politics needs to be, is we need to stop interfering in other countries and destabilizing them and causing depressions in there because we attack their main industry. And until then, like, and also we need to allow people to seek, have refugee status in this country. And by the way, we could, even outside of refugees, we can allow a lot more immigration in this country. And these things need to be said forthrightly. And the way to do that in a way that doesn't attack labor is to make sure we expand labor rights and union power and that sort of thing. Like you said, like we said earlier, with the auto stuff, there are auto unions in Mexico that are saying we're not going to allow us to be used as a race to the bottom sort of thing. And that's where the solution is. It's not like fancier solutions to or technocratic solutions.
Right. I mean, I thought it was a great, a great moment there from AOC. My only small critique was, and you know what? She might not have even noticed it herself in the moment, but I wish she did point out that, because she says Republicans do this, and obviously they do, but I wish she pointed out that the assemblywoman she was talking to was a Democrat, installed by the party itself, because anyone who lives in New York knows that the New York Democratic machine is people probably think of, people outside of New York City probably think New York City, oh, it's so progressive. Not true. But also the Democratic Party, like the apparatus in New York City, is also extremely not progressive.
Yep.
The progressives the progressives might be growing in ranks in the actual offices, but when it comes to like who runs the party and who gets party support, it's not the progressives.
Yeah, it's not. The Brooklyn Democratic Party, what was the last right-wing thing that they did, Bradley? They endorsed some sort of, the Brooklyn Democratic Party? What, am I thinking of something? I don't know. I thought you might remember. Yeah.
There's been like a little bit of a concerted effort by some people on the left to basically try and take over some of the committee aspects of it because it's just so sclerotic and so conservative. But I don't know if there was something in particular recently.
Yeah, regardless, I agreed with you, Binder. I wish that was a bit more of a point of emphasis, but
they messed up my party registration ahead of the 2016 primary in a way that I think I don't trust. I don't have any like actual like solid evidence on that, but I got it returned to me stamped by official election mail but unopened about a week before I could actually vote, and I had to do a provisional ballot.
Interesting.
That happened to me as well in 2016. So you're not the only one. Sorry, everyone. My internet's been a little spotty today. So if I do drop off again, I'll just stay off. But I will say I do appreciate that response, especially hearing it in the aftermath of the Republican debate, where like every answer that wasn't when they couldn't answer a question because the questions last night were hard. They were like, at least for Republicans,
it was good.
They were hard.
The Univision woman was very, very, I thought, effective.
Yeah, she was roasting them. I didn't understand why there was a British guy on the panel. Wasn't a fan of that.
Stuart Varney.
All. Yeah.
What does America come to? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can't even have Americans getting American jobs in the Republican primary debates.
Exactly. They returned every single issue to the border when they couldn't answer questions about labor, about abortion.
And also, the border is
crime.
technically China also.